Greetings and welcome to the Pampering Myself podcast, an advocacy for self-care. We'll laugh, we'll cry, and most importantly, we'll learn that you can't pour from an empty cup. You'll hear stories, interviews, and conversations which will empower you in living your best life. Greetings, podcast listeners, and welcome to our holiday special, 'Tis the Season. We recognize this holiday season is different for all of us, some more than others. For those who have lost loved ones or may be financially or emotionally struggling, you're in our thoughts and prayers. During this time of uncertainty, we need something positive to distract us from all the negative things that are going on in the world, even if it's just for a short time. So I thought it would be fun to take a look back on happier times to lift our spirits. So I've enlisted a few friends who just happen to be storytellers to share some of their most memorable holidays and hopefully put a smile on your face, even if it's for a short time. Since we're all on house arrest, or should be, use this time wisely. So without further ado, joining me this evening is Cheryl, Chris, Michelle, and Gwen. Welcome, ladies, and thank you for joining.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody.
Tis the season, certainly a season like no other, but we're here and we're going to make the best of it. Michelle, I'd like to start with you. As a child, what was your most memorable Christmas?
Okay. As a child, I was a teenager. Well, preteen because I hadn't hit ninth grade yet, so I was like eighth grade. And I like records. I like music. And at that age where you can smoke because you can slip and smoke. Let me clarify that.
Mm-hmm.
Or you could buy records. And my allowance only counted for one thing. You either buy records, 45s, which cost X number of cents, or you can buy a pack of cigarettes, same price. Cigarettes only last until they're gone. Records you can play forever. And I always was the one to go for longevity, so I wanted records. And I had a little record player where you could only play one record at a time, and you had to put the little centerpiece in the center so the record wouldn't slide around the turntable. And I asked for a record player. And my parents said we couldn't have one because money was tight. And I said, okay, what else you gonna say? And when we came down for Christmas, there's this blue and white box. And it was on the stand. And I said, what's that? And my brother opened and he said, it looks like a record player. I said, oh, that's nice. And I thought it was for him because my parents told me we didn't have money to buy me a record player. And he said, no, silly, I think that's yours. And I said, no. And I explained, and my dad said, Santa Claus. And I looked at him because, in eighth grade, you don't believe in Santa Claus. But he said, Santa Claus bought that record player, kiddo. And I said, for me? And they said, yes. I got all the 45s I had. I got all the 33s I had. And I played all day as loud as it could because it had a bass to it. There was nothing like bass. And I played until I had to get a new needle. And that was on Christmas Day. And that was my best Christmas.
I remember my best Christmas was getting a Polaroid camera. You remember those Polaroid cameras where you could take a picture and it would just come out instantly?
Right.
Yes.
Okay, so I had to be 13, 14 years old, and I wanted that camera really bad. And I actually got it. It's part of, it was one of those things where at that age I was a snooper. So I knew I was going to get that camera back in the summer months because I had looked around in the attic. I was looking for stuff. And I found that camera. So I was real excited and couldn't wait till Christmas. And when I finally got the camera, I think I had 1 or 2 packs of film. I can't remember how many came in the box. It might have been 8 or 10. So you can imagine how quick
you go through that box of film, right? I went through that film as quickly as I could, and then I asked my father if he would go buy some more. So he did. Now, I think the store was called Kinsel's, that used to be downtown on what, Michigan and Griswold, the only store
I
in the
remember.
city, right?
Yes.
Open on Christmas Day.
Yes. Kinzel Drugs.
Right, Kinsel Drugs. So he drove downtown. We lived on the east side, Gladwin and Mac area. And he would drive all the way down there and get me another couple of boxes of film. And within an hour or so, I was out of film again. Well, sometime during the next month or two, I guess they got tired of buying all this film. Camera might have been cheap, but the film wasn't. And being a teenager, you just go through it just like that. So they took the camera, and the last time I remember seeing that camera, it got put up on our china cabinet in the dining room. And so months went by, and, you know, I wasn't thinking about it anymore because, you know, again, know how kids are. I wanted then, and next thing come along, I wanted that. So I had thought about that camera one day, and I said, where's my camera? And nobody knew where that camera was. Now, I'm thinking all these years that maybe somebody walked in the house and stole the camera. But I recently had a revelation. I think they got rid of that camera. And I think they got rid of that camera because the film cost too much money.
Wow.
And since I hadn't inquired about it for a couple of months, they figured I'm not interested anymore. So when I told my husband, I said, I think they must have got rid of my camera now that I'm thinking about it all these years. And he said, do you think they would do that? I said, I would. I would do the very same thing. And so he asked me, right, had I ever done anything like that to my daughter? I'm like, I'm sure. And I probably got rid of some of his stuff too.
And you know that china cabinet was always the catch-all for when stuff needed to disappear. They put it on top of the china cabinet because you wouldn't think to look at it, and all of a sudden, where'd it go? I don't know. And you're like, oh, okay.
That's right. I don't know. So anybody else? Wait a minute. I want to go back to Michelle because Michelle said something that was interesting about them records versus cigarettes. Now, I remember my thing was cigarettes versus candy. We took our lunch money and bought cigarettes. But there were times when, because we had these candy ladies, as you call them, or candy man or trucks, who used to have their cars parked down the street from the school, like a station wagon, and it would be full of candy. And most people spent their lunch money on that. So me and my friends would decide on whether we were going to spend ours on cigarettes or whether we were going to buy that candy. So that's where ours was versus.
So what did you do?
It depended on what day it was. Some days cigarettes. Some days we wanted that candy. Some days I would spend, because cigarettes was cheap. Well, not like we had a lot of money, but we usually had to put our money together. And we could get a pack of cigarettes and it would last us a long time because, you know, you had to sneak and smoke. So one cigarette would last a long time. You take the pack home, and tomorrow I'll take the pack home.
Oh, you were brave enough to get a pack and try to take it in the house.
Yeah, that's what we kind of did. Anybody else want to share a memorable Christmas?
I'll share one.
Okay.
I never understood why my parents, especially, would tell us that because they were so into the Alabama roots, you know. And so I just didn't know why they ever told us that there was a Santa, because we ain't had no chimney. You know, we didn't even have all that kind of stuff that he do. Wasn't that kind of neighborhood where the brother feels safe running through with all them presents. Just wasn't that way. But when I found out there was no Santa, because I was like Pam, Jonesy, I would sneak around. That's when it was time for me to find out. Because when you start sneaking around, it's time for you to know it ain't one.
Mm-hmm.
I would hunt and seek and peck. And I went and I acted like I was asleep, because they had this ritual. You had to go to bed at a certain time, take your bath. I was in there playing like I was asleep. And I'm the baby of the family. So I went down there sneaking around. I heard the tinkering because I'd asked for a bike that year. So I go down listening around to the basement and I hear all this clanging and beating and this cussing under the breath. And I'm like, that's my brother's voice. He was hitting his hand. He was never mechanically inclined. Smart as a whip, but he couldn't screw a nail or screw in if his life depended on it. So I was like, well, why he putting it together? Oh, he must be a Santa's helper. Okay. So I go back upstairs and my mom would always do this last minute shopping. So I'm with her because baby, they ain't gonna leave me there because they know I'm gonna be hunting all over the house. So they took me with her shopping. And I hated when my mom shopped because she'd go off into the sunset and you wouldn't see her for hours later. And I'm sitting in the car. Mama, can I sit in the car? Because I knew she had stopped at some stores. And I pulled out from under the seat. I couldn't find it in the trunk or anywhere else. This doll that I'd asked. I love Barbie dolls. So I looked for this doll and Ken had just come out. Well, my mama was innovative. She couldn't find no Ken, but she was going to try to substitute it for G.I. Joe. Now, y'all know G.I. Joe wasn't built like Ken. Ken was smooth all over the place. Smooth, not a wrinkle, not a muscle.
Right.
G.I. Joe had screws and, arms and muscles on top of muscles. When my mama saw that I had that out, she broke out in tears. Because for some reason, she wanted to keep the dream alive, to make it magical for us before life got so serious. Right. I didn't care. And I told her, Mama, I don't care who buying these gifts. If y'all think enough for me to buy me something, to spend your money on me, I'm just as grateful. And that's how I taught my daughter. I never told her about no Santa Claus. I wasn't sharing the fame of Santa. He ain't getting none of my glory. I bought you these gifts. So that was my most memorable. And it didn't change anything at all, but it did for my mom. But that was so funny that she was trying to pass that G.I. Joe off as kid. I'm like, Mama, he ain't gonna even fit in them clothes. And she said, well, we'd have done something. Oh, but it just amazes me. That's when I really realized the love and care that people take when they actually think of you and buy you a gift. So that was my most memorable Christmas.
Absolutely, yes. Interesting. Cheryl.
Yes.
We're talking about Santa Claus now. So, the big guy with the red suit on. When we woke up in my house, it was 4 of us. There would be toys spread all over the house. The boys' toys on one side, the girls on the other side. And we grew up believing in Santa Claus. Tell us what a Christmas morning looked like in your house.
Oh boy, change from Christmas to Christmas, depending on whether or not my dad was on changeover from Chrysler, whether or not that particular Christmas, things that happened within the family and they had to maybe send some money somewhere, it just changed. Mm-hmm. One thing that was consistent is that we did believe in Santa Claus. I still believe in Santa. Okay. I still dream that somebody's going to put something major under the Christmas tree. And sometimes it's happened. I had a lot of disappointments over Christmas. Mm-hmm. Because there was a point at which I thought the more presents you had meant the more you were loved. Mm-hmm. But I learned, my parents sat down with us and said, when we can, we will. Mm-hmm. And when we can't, we won't. And so I understand, and I sort of carry that with me today, that I do what I can. And you can make something big out of something small. Just a handwritten note, just a call when it's not expected. Mm-hmm. Every Christmas, what we did consistently have was oranges. There was always a bowl of oranges. There was also a bowl of nuts.
Yes.
Pecans, walnuts, And we had to learn how to use the nutcracker because we try and bite them with our teeth. And then the other thing, the third thing that we always had was ribbon candy.
Oh,
And
I remember that.
it had all those multiple colors. And
Yes.
when I had my stash, I was fine. I just wanted my sisters and brothers. I was the oldest girl. There were 8 of us. So with my parents, 10. And we always tried to come up with something for our parents. I think it was more important for us to say thank you to them in some big or small way, even if it was some cologne that didn't have much of a scent to it. But it was a nice packaging. And so I have very fond memories, even when it was not a lot going on, we were together. And based on other things that happened in my life, being together was important.
Yeah,
Hitting my
I agree with
brothers, to hiding things, staying in the bed until everyone had opened their gifts, and then I'd come down and open mine last. And I do that with a whole lot of things. I always had to have my moment. But growing up was good. My parents were good to us and they loved us and we knew it.
So on Christmas morning, you would let them get up early first, open their gifts, and then you would go?
It depended on what was going on. As I got older, I'd get up because I'd be assisting my parents. Okay. When I was younger, depending, we had a thing. Let's say we all had a popsicle. And I'd wait and leave my popsicle in the freezer till everybody was done. And when all 8 of us were sitting in the TV room, I'd bring mine out.
Nah.
Yes. And I took great joy in that. And so it was always something to sort of keep things interesting. I sort of dug that.
Did that get you in trouble with everybody else?
I sort of, people would be surprised. I pushed boundaries a lot. I wasn't really doing anything, but I just had to be where the happenings were occurring. And I was teased by my friends, you better get home. The street lights are going to be out and you're going to be in big trouble. Well, they didn't have those kind of rules in their homes. And so they'd be out making up dance routines. And sometimes I'd stay over a little bit to hang with them. But for the most part, I was compliant with my parents. I did what they told me to do, but I did push the boundaries at times. I was slick.
She was talking about that fruit and that walnuts and that stuff. We used to have that too. And I remember Christmas morning, I'd see the cakes. My mom would get all these cakes. But I love the peppermint sticks because I push them down in the orange and try to suck it up through there. Oh man, that's a memory. I'm gonna have to go find some peppermint sticks and some oranges now, Cheryl. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to find that ribbon candy because I remember that was pretty good. Yeah. I don't know if I've seen it.
I found some just the other day when I was getting those Danish cookies in the blue can. Yes, Lord. I pass it out to the people who help me, like the guy who comes to get my lawnmower converted over, the mailman. Okay. I give those, and they had them at a dollar store. I was so surprised to find them at the dollar store, and it was like old-fashioned granny's candy. And I got some in there now. Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Okay, I'll meet you and get me a couple of pieces.
Gotcha. I sure will.
Gwen, I remember I was a certain age when I found out there was no Santa Claus. This was before I even went in search of my gifts. But I remember one day we lived in a 2-family flat and the people upstairs, I guess, were the ones that kept all of our toys. And I was determined this year that I was going to see Santa Claus to be disappointed. Well, I guess there was no Santa Claus. It was my parents actually bringing the toys downstairs and putting them all around in the living room. Since we got older, my sister started wrapping all of her kids' gifts. And I asked her, where did she get that tradition from? Because our toys were never wrapped individually. They were set out. When you were coming up as a kid, when did you find out there was no Santa Claus, and how were your parents with Christmas morning? How did you get up? What was the tradition in your house for getting up in the morning?
Oh, tradition. My parents being from the South, and there was little or no excitement on Christmas morning. Not only would we have breakfast and we would play with our toys, but my mother would prepare us to go to the parade. It was cold. It wasn't my favorite thing, but she loved the parade. So each Christmas morning, like I said, we would have our breakfast and open our toys, and around 9 o'clock, prepare ourselves to go to the parade. And she would enjoy it. I enjoyed it, the clowns and the things, but I think she enjoyed it more than we did. She would want to go every year. Now, that's something I did not do with my son, to go to the parade. But other things we did do. But that was our morning, opening gifts and going to the parade. It was, and to jump up and down when Santa Claus was at Hudson's department store. Jump up and down and have some, and try to catch things that the clowns threw to us. That's what we did. That's what we did. And afterward, we would go back home, and then by then it would be lunchtime. Now, Father would have made some hot sausages during Thanksgiving. You know, those big ones that would be in the jar, soaking in, I guess, vinegar. He would have made during Thanksgiving weekend some. He would prepare the sausages. He would place a lot of peppers and things in this huge jar, and then set it aside. And by Christmas time, he would open it up. And by lunchtime, we would sit around him, because we always sit around him, hoping we would get something. But sit around him, and he would slice the crackers and the sauce. Well, slice the sausage and the crackers, and we would just enjoy that as my mother was preparing the Christmas dinner.
You ate the hot sausage?
Oh yes.
Oh
yes.
Yes.
Even now, once in a while, I have a thing, and I have to go through some hotness for a week.
Yeah, I like hot myself.
Me too.
We didn't go to the parades as kids. I didn't start going to the parade till I was an adult with my daughter and my nieces. And it was shortly after a few years. They didn't like it because they said it was too cold and we couldn't hardly see. And it was just excitement for me. So we did it for a few years. And that was the end of that.
Yeah.
Now I have a question I'm going to ask each of you to respond. So put your thinking caps on.
Okay.
We call this segment here True Confessions. And I'll go first. So what is something people who know you would be surprised to learn you did during the holidays? Naughty or nice? Well, I have to admit that mine was probably naughty. Every year at Christmas time, when presents started going up under the tree, my mother would get presents from work. My father would get presents. You know how people bring presents in, they put them up under the tree. The closer it got to Christmas, particularly gifts that were given to my sister or my brothers or whomever inside the house. I was curious. So I would take not only my gifts, but everybody's gifts, and I would have to unwrap them. So I became a professional wrapper because I would have to take them and take that tape off or slit them just ever so carefully, open them up, see what they had, and then I wrap them back up. Now, I never got busted because if something didn't go right, well, I pretend like I fell on it or something, the reason why it got all scarred up or messed up. So I actually did that. And I did it for an awful long time. It started in my childhood, and I probably was in my 30s before I stopped doing it.
Opening up other people's gifts.
Yes. I would unwrap everybody's gifts, yes. And so the bad thing was I wasn't surprised. The Christmas morning, everybody opening up their gifts, they're all surprised. First of all, I know what they have and I know what I have. So it took out the excitement from me. And finally, I had to convince myself to stop doing that because I didn't have anything to look forward to.
You just nosy.
Yeah. So, and that's how I found my camera and anything else during the holidays and Christmas before. We had an attic and I would be on a search, like knowing they got something they done put up. And I would find it. And it always spoiled it for me, but I did it anyway. So, Miss O.
Oh, no.
What would someone be surprised?
Okay. I tried to think of a story to tell, so I might as well tell the truth. I was curious. I had boyfriends. And one particular boyfriend, I had been his girlfriend for several years. And just before I went away to college, we decided that we wanted to be together. Totally together for an evening. So I came up with the story, told my mom that I was going to my best friend's house and that her uncle was gonna pick me up in his cab. I don't know where that story came from, but it rolled out. And my mother was the type, she would look at you from your shoes all the way up, like she's sizing up this lot. And so I got out, got in the cab, and he started to drive away, and he said, hold up. He said, do you have any money? And I said, no, he's gonna pay you. He said, oh no, baby, oh no. You're gonna have to get out of my cab. You ain't got no money, I'm not taking you anywhere. So I got out the cab, and I said, but he said, get out. And so I got out of the cab, and I said, now what am I gonna do? So I go back in the house, and my mother said, what's going on? And I said, well, he had a special run, and he told me he would have to come back and get me. She said, what kind of mess? This was an important date. We were supposed to get real close. And so I called him, and I said, this is what's happening, and da-da-da. And he said, I'm gonna come and get you. So he came in the cab, and he leaned down, and I ran out, got in the cab, and off we went. We got to his brother's house, who was out of town, and so we sort of had the house to ourselves. Now, I'm just 17, and you all are looking at me so...
Oh, it's getting interesting.
No, I think we can all relate.
Okay. So
speak for yourself.
We get over to the brother's house. I'm hotter than a firecracker, and not from the heat.
Yeah, we understand.
Right, hotter than a firecracker, waiting for this to happen. So we go upstairs, and we were talking and all of that. And I said, well, let me go, to the bathroom. Well, to my dismay,
uh-oh. I can imagine.
He showed up.
Yep.
So nothing was getting ready to happen.
Right.
So I go back and I said, well, we can't do anything. And he said, we can't? And I said, no, we can't. He said, okay. Well, at that time, we hear what sounds like somebody breaking in. It's the brother coming home. He wasn't going to be gone. He came up the stairs and he sort of kicked the door open and he said, what the? You two don't get out of here? And there we were right off of 12th Street, trying to get home. And I was just so brokenhearted about everything. And he grabbed my hand and he looked at me. It was all worth it.
Yeah.
Now, I won't say we ever consummated that relationship, but boy, did we try. What about you?
Well, I like the way you say your mother looked at you from your feet all the way up to the top of your head.
That's right.
It's funny how, mothers then, or maybe even you, because I had that look too, of how you can look at your kids and they know what you mean without saying a word.
Yeah.
That's a lost art.
And my mother had it down pat. When she thought it was going on, it was going on. Okay. And she didn't say much. My mother didn't talk a lot, but those eyes and her mannerisms were enough that you wish she'd hit you upside the head or something.
Right. Get it over.
So those looks, I think, sort of when I'd veer off that road, that look would get me back on it. So I started looking at my behavior after that before I got in some serious trouble.
That's funny. Okay, who want to go next?
Okay, Gwen, I want to share. Like, my father would make eggnog every Christmas, and with the cream and the eggs and the milk and nutmeg, and he would make not only quarts, gallons, didn't have any alcohol in it. He also made like a punch bowl with alcohol. That was what we were not supposed to indulge in. Now, as the relatives would come over sometime in the afternoon, just before my mother served dinner, these things were in the refrigerator. And she could be in any part of the house. And well, my brother and I was the original sneakers. We would sneak around thinking that nobody would find and know that we were sneaking. So this particular time, we did. We got our little glasses out and we did not go to the non-alcohol. We went to the alcohol. And well, we were sitting, how did they find out? Well, they found out when they got ready to serve some of it, most of it was gone. And they were wondering why we were so quiet. And that was the reason, because we had indulged a little bit too much in the wrong container.
I'm surprised that you didn't, your actions, when you said you were quiet, I guess that's what the alcohol did to you all, because it probably would have made me laugh and be silly.
Yeah.
But we think we're smart, don't we? That you can
Yes,
hide.
we do.
And that's crazy because as adults, you look at your kids and, they, of course, now think you can't figure things out.
Right.
Been there, done that.
Right. Michelle?
Yes. Ooh. Well, I think I'll tell this one. I was older. I'm not going to tell what I did when I was younger, but I had temper like nobody's business. I went to anger management classes before the word was even invented. But I was an adult in my early 20s. And, well, no, I couldn't be in my early 20s because my brother was in his 20s. But I was in my older 20s, let's put it like that. And my parents were strict. I had to be in the house by 12:30. You got to be kidding me. And I'm working, but that's what you want, fine. Well, my brother and I went out to this club. We happened to meet at this club. Now, he did all this stuff. And we were out there. And I can't remember what time we came home, but we came home at the same time, and we went up. You know how you go step by step, slowly.
Right, I turned.
Took a step together. It only sounded like one person was coming up the steps. And we went through this. And after we got up to the top of the steps, my mother said, now that you have accomplished that, you're getting up in the morning. I said, oh boy. So I'm outside in the backyard, and 3 of them and my grandmother on the back porch. And my mother tears into me about how the neighbors are talking about me hanging out at night. What kind of young lady am I? And I'm like, you got to be joking, right? And so then my brother's shaking his head, don't go there. Don't go there. And I said, excuse me, I'm the only one who's single out here. You know, I wasn't counting him. And I said, now, we were at such and such a club. And he's looking at me like, what is wrong with you? And I said, and I saw Mr. So-and-so with somebody else that was not his wife. And these are all our neighbors. I saw Mr. So-and-so was with somebody else, and she looked good too. And that wasn't his wife. And then I named all the men on that block who were out with somebody else, and their wives were sitting at home passing judgment on people. I said, now, if some of them come out of their mammy-made dresses and fix up, they would be hanging out in the clubs with their husband. And I said, and if you don't believe that I saw them, ask Tony. And Tony said, well, I got to be in this. I said, because you were there. And so then I said, and I made them speak to me. And my mother said, girl, shut your mouth and get back in here. I said, no. And so then my grandma said, that's my girl. And my dad said, should have known better. And from that day on, did nobody pick with me. Now, I'm in my 20s, grown. What kind of lady are you hanging out all night? Like, oh, really? You really want to try me? You just don't know. And I never had any problems with anybody after that. Now, that was not nice. I did that a couple of times when I was working for the government. And when you come across Canada, you know how the person asks you what's your citizenship and all that kind of stuff. Well, that's what I did. And the people that lived next door to my parents at that time, that man was the nastiest, rudest man I had ever met. And he would treat my parents like dirt. Block their driveway and dare them to have anything to say, which was the wrong thing, because my father didn't take stuff off of anybody, especially when you park in front of his driveway, park in front of your own doggone driveway. And they were really nasty. Well, he comes across with some young girl. I said, oh, hi, Mr. So how are you? Kind of, and you know what? And I'm thinking of you now because you can't leave. So when I got through with him and asking him how his wife was and how his kids were and all that stuff, my mother said, what did you do? And I said, oh, I saw him on the border last night and I had a talk with him. My father said, it must be good because he's just as nice as he can be. And then he and his wife got a divorce and she said, tell your daughter, thank you so much. Now, those are the things that a lot of people don't know about me.
Okay. We're going to move on to the holiday cooking, the dish. Yes. I can remember my first Thanksgiving turkey. I forgot to take the necks out.
Package.
And the packaging out the turkey when it's all said and done. I'm going to direct this question to you, Chris. There's a first time for everything, and especially with COVID. And there's been a lot of cooks, a lot of first-time cooks this year. I kind of helped my niece get through her second turkey. But if you could hear the thoughts of your dinner guests as they took that first bite into your first holiday meal, what would you hear them say, and what is your defense?
They'd be hollering, where's the doctor, where's the Pepto, and where is Jesus, because I'm not feeling well. I remember, and the funny part is both my husbands were chefs, good cooks. So
Oh,
but I had to do it myself. I didn't want him, and all he's
right.
in there trying to help me. And my first husband, and when I got married at 17, so you knew that was part of the problem. Even
Mm-hmm.
though my parents made sure we knew how to cook, you know, or they thought I knew how to do my part. We all had a part. You know, my
Right.
brother did the selecting. My sister did the fixing, like she cut the chicken up. Me, I was a stirrer and a turner. So when I got married at 17, the first time, that's the expanse of my career, turning and stirring. And I was in there trying to make some gravy. You could plaster walls with that stuff. It was so thick.
Mm,
And my husband, he ate it and then he ran in there after me and tried to fix it up. And it was my
yes.
mom. I was up in Kalamazoo because I went to Western, and my mom and stepdad had come up. And you know how a mama is. She just said, "Baby, you need a little more salt with this." Now you know I needed more than salt. That stuff was tough and rough and all over. And I just kind of sat there. It didn't embarrass me because I make everything out of a joke. You know what I'm saying? It's like it
Right.
didn't hurt my
Yeah.
feelings. I wasn't running out the room crying, because I had spent our last money because we was poor at 17 getting married,
I imagine.
and I wasn't throwing nothing away. And I had a 125-pound dog, and he loved it. So in my defense, my mom was like, my mom went home, and I never forget it because she was still in Detroit. She mailed me some recipes. And she say, whenever you get ready to fix this, just give me a call. And so
Yes.
my husband was always, both my husbands were so supportive. And my first husband, he said, "Baby, it's all right. It was good. All you had to do was just this and that." And that was the whole meal. Just this and that was like thawed out right and brown it right and all that stuff. So so that was it. They was just crying, but they was just so gracious to me because I was like, Michelle, I had a little temper. So they was like, walking on eggshells, anyway.
Yeah,
So
try not to hurt your
yeah,
feelings.
because they knew I was crazy and had a temper. So they didn't want to like, that go that way at Christmas, especially. So yeah, they was
Mhm.
looking for that pink bottle, honey.
Cheryl, I know that you had mentioned before that your family was trying to put together this cookbook.
Right.
So I know you have some recipes. So what is your favorite holiday dish? Who makes it? And if it's not you, where did it come from? Give us some history behind it.
Okay. Growing up, my favorite dishes were done by my mom and my grandmother. They were excellent cooks. In our home, when you walked into our house, there was what we called the vestibule, the reception area. And there was a staircase, and there was a landing and a staircase that went down into the kitchen. And I sat there. My mother didn't instruct, but she allowed you to watch. And so I watched her, I watched my grandmother. I asked questions. Mom didn't answer many, but my grandmother did. What I did observe with my mother is that she tasted constantly. She was always tweaking it. It was not a half a cup of this and a pinch of that. She did it according to taste. And I think I've honed that from her, that I don't necessarily go with recipes. If it seems like too much sugar, I'll put less in than the recipe says. If it says a half a spoon of something, I think that this is going to be a long simmering dish. And so as a result, I'm put a little extra in because it's going to cook down over time. So I'm really a great cook, and I try to encourage my family to do a cookbook. It didn't go over well because um, they didn't submit the recipes. They did recipes for their children, like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. It wasn't serious. And
Yeah.
so I went off on my own, the Lone Ranger,
Mm-hmm.
and I spun stories about my parents throughout the collection of recipes that I have. And so I plan to give that recipe, that book to my sisters and brothers for Christmas next year. So it's just something I wanted to do, and I did it, and I'm very proud of it.
Yes,
Great
sounds like a
recipe.
good
And
idea.
my favorite recipe from my mom was her banana pudding. And she was the person that used the double boiler. She made her own pudding. And she took her time, and I'm telling you, that was something to behold. It was the best. My grandmother made the best greens. It was something I could never get it, but she's throwing. She's checking. She's throwing. She's checking. And I'm telling you, when we sat down, it was finger looking good. Everything she cooked. And it had to be prepared in a certain way. It had to be laid out. You don't touch anything until everybody's sitting down to eat. And she just took great joy in our smiles, and it was just so good. So family and good food, you can't beat it.
Yes, that's something.
Yes.
It's sad because I mean, really, this year, even though they say things are different, they're really not different because if you stick to those in your household, um, you still have that combination of family. It's just not the extended family outside. And it could still be that way. You might not do all the bells and whistles that you traditionally did or make all the food, but it's still a time, I think, where we are able to gather and carry on some of those same traditions. We still got 2 holidays to get through, and I think they'll be the same.
Yeah.
Christmas and New Year's. I don't plan on having anybody here or going anywhere for Christmas or New Year's. So we have to make the best of it. And I think we can. It's just how we look at it. I'm going to ask this next question of you, Gwen.
Yes.
I recall my best Christmas gift ever. It goes back some years when my daughter, I want to say she was about maybe 6 or 7 years old. You know, a lot of times we anticipate, you know, someone else in the household, the father or someone else giving the kids, taking the kids shopping and buying gifts for the mother and say, this is from them. Well, she surprised us both one year because that didn't happen. Uh, we never took her shopping to buy a gift for the other one. But she had a gift for me on Christmas. And so I was kind of surprised. She had it in a shoebox. And when I opened it up, it was something that was already mine in the first place. But it was her way of thinking she was giving me something, you know. And so that was a Christmas gift that I always remember, my favorite. So could you share with us what your favorite Christmas gift was?
I think I will change that to a Christmas time gift. What I'm saying is, I was an adult then. You know how you exchange gifts at jobs, or you have a whole week of a Secret Santa.
Right.
Well, I belong to a organization that we did that. And the maximum money was $10, $15 each day. You're supposed to give something or get it to the person. Well, I got quite a few nice gifts, very nice. And since I love surprises, I don't open a gift until Christmas, even if I get it 3 days earlier. And for example, you know those summer lounge chairs that could just cost $10? I got that. One lady gave me next day she gave me a scarf. And then the next day she gave me some house shoes. Another time, some type of lounge coat. And all those things were under $10, $15. But they were all surprises that I never expect to get at all. And then we would exchange probably when we would see each other at a meeting, we gave the big gift. But it was just so nice to get something that surprised me that you can get for little or nothing.
Right.
And I appreciate that.
Yes. So Michelle's going to have the pleasure then of answering this question. Have you ever re-gift? Have you ever gotten something that you did not like, couldn't use, and re-gifted? And if so, were you ever busted? Like, did you give it to the person who gave it to you in the first place?
I can honestly say I have never re-gifted. Never. I can honestly say that. If I had something, and for the most part, if you gave it to me, I liked it because it came from your heart. And I don't care what it was. And this one, the little girl that used to babysit for me, she gave me something like that you would get out of a dollar store. It's like $2 or $3 figurine. I acted like that was one of those New England Royal Dalton figurines, and I put it in my china cabinet. And she came over and she said, "Wow, you put that out." I said, "You gave it to me, didn't you?" She said, "Yes." Now she was a teenager, and I said, "All right then." My kids gave me, they wanted, they were all going to give something. I don't care what it was, and I always made over it. And one year, they went into our backyard, the neighbor's backyard, the other neighbor's backyard, and came back with a bouquet of dandelions. And I said, "Oh, those yellow flowers are so pretty." And they said, "We did it for you, Mommy." And my crazy husband said, "Go out there and pick some more." And I said, "What's wrong with you?" And I took that bouquet of dandelions, and I had one of those expensive vases that my grandmother had given me, and I put that in that expensive vase and set it for everybody to see. And my husband just looked at me and said, "You're a true mother." I said, "You better not say a word to these kids either." I said, but I have never, never, never re-gifted. And if you gave me something, I liked it. I didn't care what it was because you gave it to me.
Good. I know I had
and that's the truth, and I'm stick with it.
All right. I never re-gift either, but I've had some things that I couldn't use, and I end up, let's say, well, I don't know if you want to officially call that re-gifting, but giving it away because someone else could use it. I'll give you an example. It might have been a belt that was too small, or a sweater that was too small, or something of that nature. It might have been too big. Either way, I couldn't use it. And so instead of just, holding on to it, I gave it away, but I didn't wrap it up and give it to someone. But I thought of that question because I had a family member that did that, and I'm not going to say their name, but they gave the same gift back to the person who gave it to them the year before.
Oh, my.
How embarrassing.
Right,
it's often said that we give gifts to people, and oftentimes it's something we really want. So in that case, it might have been that.
Yes, that's true.
Right.
That's true. We're going to move on to holiday movies. For sake of time, we're going to kind of whiz through these last two questions. I have two favorite holiday movies. I don't know if you all know Bad Santa. Anybody know that movie?
Yeah.
It's a nice comedy.
You got to be kidding.
Yes, I like that. I like Billy Bob Thornton. So Bad Santa is one of my favorites. It's a child movie. It's a adult comedy humor. And my second one is it just came on recently. This Christmas.
Yeah.
Yes, I just watched it like 2 days ago with Loretta Devine. Yes, that's one of my favorite movies.
And Idris Elba. Oh yeah.
Yes. Cheryl, do you have a favorite holiday movie?
Well, the title just went out of my head. Home Alone.
Okay.
I love that movie. I watch it every year, maybe twice a year. I didn't like the second version. I mean, the sequel, but I love the first story. I love it.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, I go back to that old one, Miracle on 34th Street.
Yes.
I look at it every year, and if it comes on 5 times, I still look at it in that.
Right.
It's
And
a
I just,
Wonderful Life.
oh yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's
Yes,
another good
yes.
one.
I'm like Pam. I like This Christmas and White Christmas. Me and my daughter has had a tradition since she was young that we watch that and sing the song Sisters, Sisters. You know, we kind of reenact all of that stuff. But those are my 2 favorites.
Good.
Yesterday, I happened to be looking at Women's World, and it was said this a movie called Jingle Jangle that was on Netflix.
Yeah.
And it's a good family movie. I looked at it this morning. It's called Jingle Jangle.
Yeah,
And it has a good moral about believing.
As soon as I get out of this class, I got a list of movies that I'm going to watch. And that's one of them.
Okay, well, you can start us off, Chris, with your favorite Christmas song.
It's actually This Christmas by Donny Hathaway.
Oh yes.
And anything by Nat King Cole, you know, I just love those 2. But those 2 kind of set me in the mood for, yep, this is the season. This is, I can sit back and my heart kind of gets into the mood for Christmas. Those 2.
Right. Right. Michelle, what about you?
Donny Hathaway, All the Way.
All the way.
That's my favorite song.
Yes.
And when I hear it, I just like, oh.
Yeah.
Right.
How about you, Cheryl?
Love Donny Hathaway.
Any song in particular?
I like standards.
Okay. All right. Gwen?
You know, Donnie, I was kind of thinking the last couple of days, and it is on a religious vein, Oh Holy Night. That one I like.
I can't.
And Temptations, Merry Christmas.
Yes.
Temptations, I mean, Silent Night. Silent Night.
Yes, they are my favorite, but I have CeeLo Green's Mary Did You Know? That was also one of my favorites. But some of those songs, even though I like What Do the Lonely Do at Christmas, they're sad. They're too sad for me. I like the song, but they're too sad, and I really don't want to hear them. So if they come on, I turn them off. Although they're beautiful, and the music and everything is just put you in a low place. So ladies, anything else anybody want to say before we try and wrap this up here? I'm gonna ask you all to give your final thoughts or words of encouragement. And Chris, I will start with you.
Well, I was just going to say that I'll give you some gift suggestions. To your enemies, give them forgiveness. To an opponent, tolerance. To a friend, your heart. To a customer, if you're still working, service. To all, charity. To a child, a good example. And to yourself, respect. The magic of Christmas never ends, and it's the greatest of gifts. In that, the greatest of gifts, are family and friends. And I'm just honored that you guys are here as part of my extended family and truly my friends.
Yes, and we are so happy and blessed that you are too, my friend. And as soon as this COVID, and we'll be able to celebrate you finishing school next year.
Yay!
Oh, very well said. Okay, Gwen, let's move on to you.
Well, I want to end with the idea of kindness and giving, and we still can give. We still can be kind as we go through our different Christmas and different holidays that we have never had before. And if we continue to keep that in mind, we can, make other people happy. And as they are happy and respectful, we become happy and kind ourselves.
Absolutely, I agree.
Yes.
It's kind of sad that we only think of this time of year as a time of Thanksgiving, because as we know, it should be 365.
Right.
But I mean, at least we have this time of year where people are more generous and open to others. I just wish it could carry on and on and on and on throughout the year. We'd have a better world.
Right.
Or even what we going through now, if we did if it wasn't for this, we could have been kind regardless.
Right.
Because now we are thinking about things in our family.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Cheryl, would you like to share something with us?
You know, I'm thinking of a response to that question, and there but by the grace. So much has happened within my life and to people I love and care about, and I'm finding my way through it. But the word perception comes to mind. So often we see what we think we see, or we feel what we think we feel. You gotta wait a minute, slow that stuff down, and find your part in it. What is it that you need to do? What is it that you need to say? Say it. You may not get another chance. Do it. You may not get another chance to do it. My last conversation with my brother, I tried to talk to him on his birthday, and he just wasn't feeling good. And he didn't make it a week from that day. But I wanted to call him back and insist to tell him how much I loved him. And so I believe that in the ambulance, when he was on his way to the hospital, I often say that my brother was a scaredy cat, and he was scared of everything. And I perceived that him in that ambulance on his way. And I knew after I got really angry, because I felt people should have done things, should have said things to me, should have respected who I am in the family.
Right.
But keep doing the next right thing. Keep doing the next right thing. You don't have to think about it, just do it. And forgiveness. And so as we go through this time, that we find a way back to people who have hurt us, people who have not been kind, people who have not respected us. And it's hard, and I keep trying. And so that's what I'll end with. Just keep trying.
Absolutely. And I agree with you on perception, because we have to look not only what others have done to us, but what we have done to ourselves and to them as well. So it's an internal evaluation and external evaluation. Right. We all play a part some way or another. Thank you. Michelle?
Yes. This is not just for Christmas. This is for every day. And if this year hasn't taught us anything, you're in trouble. This year has brought home like nothing is promised. Tomorrow isn't promised. Enjoy what you enjoy. Let the people know who you care about. Say it to them. Just don't assume, well, I'll tell them tomorrow. If they call you or they want to talk to you, no matter how busy you are, how tired you are, take the time to be with them, because you may not get a second chance. And for the people that we have loved and who are no longer with us, don't be afraid about it, or the times that you were angry or the things that you could have done. Think about the good times, because if you keep dwelling on the negative, you'll eat yourself up. And then, like, what I think of, because I've lost some really, really close people this year, and the way I'm getting through it is telling myself they're in a better place than we are. And even though I can't see them, I can feel them. And they aren't having to deal with all this foolishness that we have to deal with, and try to figure out, what are we going to do next month? What is our life going to be like? Are we going to be able to keep fighting the way we fought and still come out on the end, or we're going to get sick because somebody was inconsiderate and didn't think about themselves, and they doggone didn't think about us. So enjoy every minute you have. And if you have relatives who are sick, you start paying attention, and like, okay, what are you trying to tell me? Because sometimes people tell you little things.
Oh, yeah.
And they're trying to tell you something, but they're not going to come out and say it. So you have to listen. And when you start talking to them and they start saying things a certain way, you like, oh God, no. And so then you uplift and you talk about other things, but you get what you need to get out of them. And you just say, okay, Lord, I need you because I can see where this is going. But you just uplift. You uplift them, you uplift yourself, you uplift everybody around you. And I know Cheryl said that you're supposed to forgive the people who mistreat you. I have some work to do on that department, honey, because if you mistreat me, I'm not going to be around you, and I'm not going to let you come around me. Because I'm a work in progress, okay?
It's a work in progress.
Yeah. So, but that's it. Enjoy each other, not just at Christmas and holiday season. Enjoy each other every day that we've drawn breath, because you never know.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. I want to thank you, ladies. It's been interesting. It's been fun. I appreciate your time, all your wonderful stories. I hope we accomplish our goal by uplifting our audience and that they will find some value and share some stories of their own during this holiday season. So I'd like to close with this quote by John Whitaker. I believe it will sum up everything that each one of you have said. For somehow, not only at Christmas, but all the long year through, the joy that you give to others is the joy that comes back to you. With that, I'll leave you all and hope each and every one of you have a Merry Christmas. And thank you for joining us.
You as well.
Thank you. Night, night, everybody.
Bye. Merry Christmas.
Happy
Merry
New Year.
Christmas.
Happiest New Year.
Same to you.
Yes.